So these are my goals. What are the limitations I discussed? These are the 4 goals I have in my proposal. One is implementing a system where it's bringing all data source into a single data source. That is many-to-one concept. And bringing all visualization platform and identifying the common functionalities between these platforms and combining them into one platform. So I'm doing through adapter, peer, and hook concept. And then this is what we did in the lab, which is a sessioning concept. And what we do is, I'll explain when I'm going to the architecture side. It's more of you identify what are the steps you are do while doing the analysis and going back between those states. And the final thing is collaboration, the sharing concept, which I used Google Drive because they provide very good APIs for, it's more like Google Doc and Google PowerPoint. So this system is going to be shared through Google Drive concept. So these are the 4 goals. So I'll go into architecture now. So the heart of the architecture is the peer. And the peer has 2 main variables. One variable is hooks, which is an array or like a data storage, a data structure which holds what are the other visualization charts you want to hold in it. And the second parameter is the hook, which is active, which is user is interacting, which chart you are interacting. So these 2 parameters are very important for this peer. And then you initialize your system with what are the hooks you want. Suppose you want a Tableau visualization, you want a Spotfire, or you want a Weave, or you want a D3 or C3. Those comes under hooks. And those hooks has been stored into the hooks of peer. So peer knows what are things has been connected now. And then you bring in all the authorized data source from the cloud into the system by combining all this authorized data source into a single data source. And then during interaction with this system, when you make interaction through one hook, through the API calls, to the same API call, with the help of peer, you interact with the other hooks. And then you share the peer, only the peer, not the entire system. You share the peer, which has all the information of the system in a shareable storage, which is in our case a Google Drive. And the help of that shareable storage, you share it with your domain expert, 1 or 2, your son, or like your father, anyone whom you prefer to share. So now I'm going to go section by section. The first section is bringing in all the authorized data source into single data source. So the example for authorized data source is like Runkeeper, Facebook, Nest, Bank of America data, anything. And how I'm doing here is, I'm collecting all these data source and combining into a single table. It's more of what we do in database in SQL. If you have 2 tables, if you want to combine those 2 tables, you identify the common column between those 2 tables. Like that, between all these data sources, one common parameter is time. If you take fitness data also has time, and financial data also has time, and utility data also has time. So you combine all these data into a single data table by this time factor. And advantage of having into single data source here is, now I can have this bar chart coming from C3, and this pie chart coming from D3, and this scatter plot come from Tableau. And since all these have a common data, they share a unique record. So if I make an interaction in one of those charts, I know what are the data has been selected, and the rest of the data can be highlighted in the rest of the tools by calling their APIs. So that's the advantage of bringing all the data source into a single data source. So second, I'm going to talk about, the second is, in our case, it's going to be Google Drive. And then the peer is going to be either the one which we designed in our lab, which is Weave. So I'm going to take the Weave core from our Flash version, or the another one what we designed is porting of our Weave core into JavaScript. So why choose Weave core rather than Tableau or C3 to be a peer? Because Weave has the capability of storing all your states. So I thought that's very important when I share a system with someone. That's why I choose Weave core for my peer. And the reason we designed a JavaScript version is because most of the visualization charts right now available in the market are in JavaScript. So it makes life a little easier to design a hook for them. So that's why we have a JavaScript version too. And that's you go with peer. And then these are examples for hook. So I have a D3 plot chart, and I have a D3 bar chart, and I have a tableaus. So this is the system with an example here. And now I'm going to talk about the heart of the system. Okay, as I said, if you look at D3, what are things usually do in visualization system? I right now just going with an example of only a selection and probing. By selection is like you're selecting a couple of records. Like in Word document, you click a section of Word and then you drag, you collect 10 or 20 words. That's what selection. And probing is something you roll mouse over on it, you get to know what is the information. Like in a Windows machine, you roll over a folder, you get to know what is the folder is about. So those are the two interactive events I'm taking as an example here. So if you look at in D3, the API name for that is brush for selection, and mouse over is a common name. And in C3 for selection, the API name is select, and the mouse over event is called focus there. And in B, we name it as selection and probing. In Tableau, they name it as mark, and mouse over event is again as mouse over. If you look at it, they have different names, but they have a common functionality. So this is what we want to identify first. And then we created an API wrapper for them by giving a common name. So we named it as do selection and do probing. So if you give the keys to them, I do selections. Like what are the records you want to select? Give me, I'll do it. And if you want to probe on one data, give me what data, I'll probe that. So we designed this API wrapper. And then we created this hooks implementing this API wrapper. So now if you look at it, D3 hook in turn will call the brush. But the entire peer doesn't need to know about what is the selection event for D3, what is the selection event for C3. All it just need to know is this API. I'll come again here. So this is the API, and I designed a hook such a way that do selection is also mapped to brush, do probe is also matched to mouse over, do selection mapped to select, do probe map to focus. So this is how we are mapping the common functionality here.